what's up? Meow, 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 meow. Yo, it's the first time I stream this late, on YouTube. I just finished my shift.
Let's roll.
Excuse me. Nah, I don't think I wanna watch this. If anything, I wanna listen to scary stories right now. And you know what? The afternoon today was pretty chilly. It's a shame I had to go out. I could have stayed in bed. Until the start of my shift, but I had to go out. I had to do something. Oh frick! I actually opened Google Chrome tonight for my chat. It's a good thing we didn't get disconnected. Long. So yeah, it's a good thing we didn't get disconnected.
Grenade out.
Podium.
Terrorists win.
Meow meow. I go long.
Go, go, go.
I go long.
Throwing fire. Flashbang.
Meow meow meow.
Grenade out.
妈要逼吧，他妈叫。别叫上了。
Okay, okay.
Noise out.
Ay nako. Kaya na, I got two.
Bomb has been planted.
Still loose.
Our best sing Jolly Spaghetti. Sure na sulit sarap with your favorite side. Jollibee
So
Mix and
yes, I wanna listen to scary stories.
Kung hindi sapat ang sabon mo, maraming pwedeng
Good
consequences.
lord, that's a very long and skippable ad.
As a comment, we only recommend Safeguard.
Today, I'm going to share two stories about people who found themselves in truly just hopeless situations. And in both of these stories, the main character makes a very unexpected decision that completely changes their lives, for better or for worse. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload 2, 3, even 4 times every week. So, if that's of interest to you, please surprise the like button with a brand new wireless controller for their gaming console. But don't tell them it's really just their old controller that you cut the wire off. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories.
Huh?
哎，左边。
What the frick? I hit him.
One night in late August of 1557, a Frenchman in his 30s named Martin Guerre was laying in a bed in a makeshift military hospital in
Nice,
St.
nice,
Quentin,
nice.
France, writhing around in pain. So a few weeks earlier, Martin had fought in this massive battle between the French and Spanish armies. And it had been
Meow,
this
meow, meow.
horrible, bloody, violent battle. And during it, Martin had been wounded very severely. In fact, he had lost his leg. Now, this injury was obviously just devastating and very painful.
Meow, meow,
But
meow,
Martin
meow,
also
meow.
knew he was just lucky to be alive. The doctors who had treated him at one point had seemed certain that he was going to die. So Martin and his doctors were all very surprised when he didn't die and he pulled through and survived. And Martin knew that a lot of his comrades who'd already left St. Quentin by this point and moved on to the army or gone back home, they very likely thought that he had died. But he was alive.
Sure.
And in a lot of pain. And really, more than that, he was just like truly devastated. He was incredibly lonely. You know, all of his army mates had basically left the hospital or just moved on with their careers, or they'd gone home. And he was still here, you know, unable to leave the hospital. He has this injury too. Like he hasn't really gotten used to life without the use of his leg. And so his whole world has come crashing down. He's sort of by himself. You know, all he has is a few army doctors who periodically come over and check on him. But beyond those people, he was just isolated and sort of trapped with these awful thoughts in his head 24/7. And eventually, these spiraling thoughts became really like the worst thing he was dealing with. Like they surpassed the actual physical pain he was dealing with. It was just this incredible depression that had set in. So Martin, he had grown up in this small rural village in southern France called Artigas. And he had gotten married at a very young age to a woman named Bertrand, and they had loved each other very much, and they had a son together. However, Martin had sort of completely messed up his life when he stole some grain from his father and had to literally flee town. Stealing, especially from a family member at the time, was not only criminal, but really quite shameful. And Martin had been so afraid of what people would say and what they would think of him that he decided not to face them at all. And he just left Artigas, leaving behind Bertrand and his son and his whole life. Now, initially, after he had sort of run away, he had considered going back and just saying he was sorry and accepting whatever punishment he'd be given. But he was always too scared to do it, and so he just didn't. And then before long, he got caught up in this war, and then years had passed by. It's like he's basically just gone. He's been removed from Bertrand and his son's life. Like he's just out of their lives. He's left them, and now, you know, he's had his leg blown off, and in his mind, you know, in this depressed state he's in, now, you know, he had never really stopped thinking about his whole life. He missed his wife terribly, but he's thinking to himself, I'm not the person she married. I'm a different person. I'm a degraded, like, bad person. Like, she wouldn't even want to be with me at this point. And then beyond Bertrand and his son, like, and how they would look at him, he also was thinking that, like, he was this thief, this shameful person that the rest of the village would not welcome. So in his mind, he really felt not just isolated in this hospital, you know, with no army mates nearby, you know, stuck because of this injury, but he's also thinking, I don't even have a place in the world. Like, I have nothing. My life is ruined. And so as Martin lay in the hospital bed, you know, having these horrible thoughts and feeling all this physical pain in his leg, you know, just having this horrible time, he found his mind wandering to somebody else in his life that had been very important to him. His friend, Arnaud. He just wished if there was one person that he could talk to right now, it would be him. So Arnaud was a fellow soldier, and before this really horrible battle where Martin lost his leg, the two had been great friends, and they bonded because they had a lot in common. They were both from small towns in the south of France, and they even looked the same. Like they could pass as brothers. So they'd gotten really close, and they talked about their lives, and they shared a lot with one another. But, like everyone else in the military that Martin had been friendly with or just worked with, Arnaud had, you know, moved on. He was no longer here. He had gone somewhere else, you know, wherever the army sent him. And so Arnaud was just yet another person in his life who he wished he could spend more time with, but knew he wouldn't. And so Martin's recovery would take a very long time. He was stuck in a hospital basically bedridden with these horrible thoughts and this awful pain for weeks and then months. And then years passed by, and Martin still was just a shell of himself. And so he actually was moved to hospice care. However, after getting to hospice, Martin actually didn't die. Like typically hospice care is for people that are at the end of life, and that no longer is it about trying to save them, it's about keeping them comfortable until they pass away. But for Martin, he didn't die. And one afternoon in early September of 1560, so now about 3 years or so after he had lost his leg, Martin sat on a bench outside of the hospice that he had been staying in since the war had ended. Now, where he was located was actually just, a few miles from his hometown, Artigas. But despite the now close proximity to, his former life, if you will, to Martin, it felt like, Artigas could have been a million miles away. Couldn't have felt further away from him. So after Martin sort of miraculously healed inside of hospice care, and he was outfitted with a wooden prosthetic leg and was told that he could now leave and go about his life, well, it was good on the one hand. He got to go, back into reality, but he still had a lot of health problems as a result of his injuries. And, given this treacherous stretch of time where he had just been stuck in bed having these horrible thoughts, he had completely convinced himself that truly he was like a shell of the man he used to be, and that nobody from his previous life would want him. Not his wife, not his son, not anybody. He was nothing now. And so even though Martin was better at this point in his mind, he sort of had resigned himself to simply wasting away and dying all alone. He just figured, even though the doctors say I'm better, that's the path I'm on, and I'm not going to change it. But now, as Martin sat outside on this bench, he heard a voice. And when he looked over at the road in front of the hospice where he heard this voice, he saw there was a man that he had never met before who was clearly walking towards him, like that was the person speaking to him. As the man approached Martin, he asked him, "Are you Martin Gare?" And when Martin slowly nodded, saying, "Yes, I am," this man's face lit up, and he explained that he'd been looking all over for him. He said he'd been sent here on behalf of Martin's family back in Artigas, and he wanted to bring Martin back to him. When Martin heard this, he couldn't believe it. I mean, he really was so convinced that he was just destined for a life of shame and agony until he died, and now to hear that his family wants him back, they're looking for him, this was incredible. This was unbelievable. I mean, he really assumed he would never go home again. And now here was this guy saying, "Come with me, let's go home." However, before Martin could ask any follow-up questions, of which he had many, about his family and what they asked about him, that kind of thing, the man told Martin that actually he had been sent here to get Martin, and he was going to bring him home, but first, they needed to stop at the courthouse in a city called Toulouse. Martin looked at him like, "What do you mean?" And the man explained the reason behind it, and Martin simply couldn't believe what he was doing.
Oh, frick. This jingle is pretty nice, I like it.
A few days later, on the morning of September 12th, Martin climbed out of a wagon in front of the courthouse in Toulouse, a city about 40 miles away from Artigas. And Martin, he felt butterflies in his stomach as he, used his cane to climb the court steps to get up to the front doors. And then when he got up there, he took a deep breath, threw open the double doors, and stepped inside. And the instant he did, the first thing he saw is the entire courthouse was filled with people. They all turned to look at him, and everyone's speaking with these hushed voices, like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe it." And that's when Martin realized he had just walked directly in to the middle of a trial. And so Martin, for a second, he just stood there staring back at all these people who were turned to look at him. And he realized that he recognized many of their faces. He saw some of his friends, he saw his Uncle Pierre and some of his sisters. He saw his wife, Blonde, as well as a boy.
I'm pretty tired right now. I feel very tired.
He saw some boy sitting next to her who must have been his son. And all of these people there looking at Martin with just looks of absolute shock on their faces. Like they were completely stunned to see him and they're all looking at his wooden leg, and they're looking back at him. It was like they couldn't believe he had just walked in here. However, before Martin could really, fully appreciate the emotional moment he was having here, seeing his loved ones after over a decade, he first looked towards the front of the courthouse. And as soon as Martin saw what was up there, he knew that what that man had told him, who came up to him on the bench in front of the hospice, was true. And Martin had to bite his lip to keep from screaming. It would turn out Martin was wrong to believe that, his wife and the town of Artigas would never accept him back, that he was worthless and should never return.
Maybe his friend pretended to be him?
Because his wife Bertrand and the town of Artigas actually did welcome him back, or so they thought. Because when Martin walked into that courthouse and looked towards the front of the room, what he saw was his long-lost buddy Arnaud from the war. And Arnaud was on trial. Arnaud did not just look like he could be Martin's brother. He looked exactly like Martin. And since Arnaud really had been very disliked in his own hometown for being a con artist, he wanted a fresh start in a new place after he left the army. So, years earlier, while Martin was lying in a makeshift army hospital so badly injured that doctors were telling him he was almost certainly going to die, while that was happening, his best bud, Arnaud, was using their likeness and his knowledge of Martin's life from all the times that Martin had confided in his friend to literally steal Martin's life. Arnaud had waltzed into Artigas and told everyone there that he was Martin Guerre. And the entire town not only believed him, they celebrated his return. Arnaud was actually so convincing that even Bertrand had believed Arnaud was her husband, and she had gone on to have 2 additional children with him, believing this was Martin. However, one person, Martin's uncle, Pierre, he just didn't buy it. He thought this guy was a fake. He thought he was an imposter, and he took him to court for fraud. And that trial was why the man had tracked Martin down at the hospice and brought him to Toulouse to help prove to everyone there that, look, Arnaud's an imposter because here's the real Martin. And of course, it worked. Because when Martin stepped into that courtroom and his own family laid eyes on him, the actual Martin Guerre, they realized right away that Arnaud truly was a fake. Arnaud was ultimately sentenced to death and hanged in front of Martin's house in Artigas while the entire village watched. As for Bertrand, Martin's wife, she was horrified to learn that she had not recognized her own husband and that she had had 2 kids with a stranger. She begged Martin to forgive her, but he never did.
Minsan, sobrang init. But with Food Panda,
Terrorists win.
GG.
Get up. What's going in? Incendiary. Throwing grenade.
Right turn. Nice.
Terrorists win. Gone. Let's call that Bravo.
打一小吧，也就这么一，也行。两个出 A 大，哎，我操，我研究，我操，我研究了。A 大研给了慢出。很长。
喵喵喵喵喵，
给大烟。
喵喵喵，
我给中门一。
喵喵喵，
这好像没听过。
各位 please， 各位。No, GG talaga.
What?
No, no, no. Meow, 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 meow.
我打逼了。
Gee. Sorry.
两个全白，我操！
Yeah.
必通。
What? You say middle?
两人一起到了。左头听到。进步没有？
Meow, meow, meow.
给中进。门口。下有一个。
Where? Short.
AK 有 AK。锤子我没必要了，我给你补枪去了。
Come on, come on, let's go. Decoy.
，A 加油 A 加油，
I'm throwing a flashbang.
我投币去。
喵喵喵。
我 AK 有 AK， 你下把吧。
I'm throwing smoke. Bomb has been planted. I'm throwing flashbang.
别上楼。
Smoke. Flashbang. Throwing a flashbang.
B 下 B 下 B 下 B B B B 来了 B 来。B 进了。
I'm throwing a grenade. Throwing fire.
跑了跑了跑了。
Bro, if you hit me, I die.
We are going to win.
喵喵。
发枪。
喵喵。
我必。
This is easy. We kill them and then we go home. Decoys out. Smoke. I'm throwing a flashbang. Flashbang. Grenade. Molotov.
地头。第二个。包掉哪有？我教练。
When did you leave the mom?
我操
I
B
know.
B， 这老一逼。
20. Bomb has been planted. I'm throwing a flashbang. Flashbang.
中门啊，刚刚被火烧的。
Good job.
Yeah, yeah.
他把枪了是吧？
Meow 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 meow.
Let's go.
让我。
Flashbang. Throwing a flashbang.
哎呦，地下。
When you're refreshing your space, choosing a paint color can feel weirdly high stakes. Will that seafoam green that you loved online look more like split pea soup on your walls? Luckily, Sherwin-Williams takes the guesswork out of finding the perfect paint color. With 3 easy ways to sample, you can choose sweating underneath his clothes. Like, hike down a snowy...
Fire.
One morning in November of 1940, an 84-year-old prospector named Irwin Robertson hiked down a snowy ridge in the Alaskan wilderness.
Yo guys, I got disconnected. Hello. I hope it's still running.
4-year-old prospector named Erwin Robertson hiked
I
down
got
a
disconnected.
snowy ridge in the Alaskan wilderness.
Yo guys, it's good thing it's still running. Weirdly enough, when I got disconnected, there was a siren outside. And then when I got reconnected, the same time it stopped. I wonder what that was.
B. Maput.
Last one, B? Huh?
B.
Where's the last one? He's right outside. So I got disconnected. I wonder what that was, guys.
Hiked down a snowy, not as young as he used to be, and you don't want to get hurt out here or, totally exhaust yourself out here. I mean, this is the wild. But Erwin was not about to slow down because he could just not wait to get home. So Erwin had come to this area about 40 years earlier as part of the big Alaskan gold rush. And so, like basically every other prospector, he spent every summer and every fall at a cabin up in the mountains, predominantly hunting and mining. But his real home, where he really considered where he lived, was in the pioneer town of Eagle, Alaska, where he lived during the winter and the spring. And that is where Erwin was headed this morning. He had just wrapped up a very successful fall season up in the mountains, and he'd actually intended on staying in the cabin up in the mountains a bit longer. But a few days ago, the temperature had suddenly dropped, and Erwin did not have the supplies to wait out a winter storm up in that cabin. So he had packed up his things, told the handful of other prospectors in the area where he was going, and then he set out for Eagle. Now this was a 100-mile trek to get to his
Just
home in
1
Eagle.
minute.
And it was through some very rough terrain, and also he's in Alaska, so this is like a very rough area to be navigating. But Erwin had made the trip at least once a year for the past 4 decades, so he knew what he was doing. So, despite really exerting himself here pushing the sled,
Good job.
he kept up as hard of a pace as he could manage for the next couple of hours, and then finally, around midday, he allowed himself to slow down and just take a quick break. However, after stopping and reaching into his parka and pulling out his canteen to take a sip of water, as he's sipping the canteen, something catches his attention out of the corner of his eye. And even though all he saw was just like a flash of movement out in the trees, he knew immediately what it was. So during this trek so far, there was this pack of wolves that was following him. He knew they were following him. But again, this is a man who lived in the wilds of Alaska, so he was not unaccustomed to running into packs of wolves. He knew they were quite dangerous, especially for a guy who's alone in the woods right now. But he wasn't that concerned. However, he's thinking, okay, they're right over there. I'm going to take a very quick break. Cap his canteen, put it back in his parka, and he's like, I'm gonna keep on moving here. A few hours later, Erwin was a good ways further down the ridge, but he was starting to get cold. In fact, ice had formed on his beard and on his eyelashes. So the temperature had dropped much faster than he had expected.
Long doors.
And he was starting to get worried because he knew it was only going to get much worse after the sun went down. And remember, he's been exerting himself this whole time. He's been sweating under his clothes, so he's wet under his clothes. Now the temperature's dropping, so he's like getting really, really cold. And so he decided that it was in his best interest to actually just stop right now and build a fire and just make sure he was warm. And so Erwin, he continued pushing his sled, keeping his eyes peeled for a good spot to actually stop. And
Okay, hold on, let me look for something.
make camp. But as he's moving along, he hears something that causes him to just stop. It wasn't the sound of wolves. It was the sound of trickling water. And much like the wolves, water was quite dangerous out in the wilds of Alaska. But in many ways, water, especially in a very cold environment like this, was like the most lethal to people. Because getting fully wet in these temperatures basically guaranteed you would freeze to death.
大神有请。
Guess I'm in. Ako po, and...
Kami! And today is our Big 18 Beach Day! Hey! Panalo na to! Whoa!
Wow, stepping up, huh?
Guys, you're almost there! Go ahead na!
Sarado. Dito kaya? Sayang na punin.
Plan for long, man. Plan for long.
Okay, let's go.
So Erwin moved very cautiously forward because, again, all he can do is hear the trickling water. He doesn't know where it is, and he's thinking, I better be careful I don't accidentally like step into a creek or something and get wet here. You know, he's already wet from sweating in his clothes. He can't afford to get more wet, and so he's moving carefully and cautiously. And then he rounds a bend, and he actually sees the source of the sound. It was a creek that had basically completely frozen over, with the exception of a little bit of water that was sort of leaking out and sort of spilling out over the ice itself. And over time, like this water that was making the sound and leaking out, it was sort of freezing in layers on the surface of this creek. And so it was kind of like this, moundy block of ice that was sitting on top of this creek, but you could clearly see water sort of
Bro, I had 20 seconds. I have 20 seconds.
trickling its way through it. And so when Erwin saw this, he realized that, as long as he was very careful to avoid stepping on the frozen creek itself, then this area would actually make a great spot to spend the night. He could refill his canteen from the little spout of water coming out of the creek. Plus, there were a bunch of dead trees nearby, which were perfect for firewood. And this was good news, because by this point, Erwin was so cold he was shivering. So he parked the sled and began gathering up some firewood. But as he was going around doing this, he spotted a few of those wolves who had not stopped following him, not very far away from him. They were sort of lingering in the trees, clearly watching him. For the first time, Erwin started to feel pretty anxious about these wolves. The fact that they were now even closer than the last time he saw them suggested that, one, they're still following him, but two, they're getting braver, they're getting closer. But Erwin's thinking, I can't just continue on here. As much as it makes sense to get away from the wolves, I'm beat physically and I'm soaked. My clothes are wet. I'm getting so cold. I'm going to die of hypothermia if I'm not careful. I got to start this fire. I have to make camp here. I just have to. About 20 minutes later, Erwin had gathered up all the wood that he would need, and he piled it all next to his sled, and then he got ready to start his fire. And in this kind of very cold environment, actually starting the fire, the process of igniting the fire, was a potentially very dangerous process. Because in order to light the match, to light the fire, Erwin would have to take off his mittens and expose his hands to the freezing cold. But Erwin had to do it, so he reached down and he bit one of his mittens and pulled it off with his teeth, and then with that hand he reached into his parka and he pulled out his fire kit, which contained these thin scraps of tinder that he would use as fire starting material. Then he grabbed a match and he struck it to light it, but it didn't catch, the head of the match did not catch on fire. And so Erwin tried again, striking the match once more, but it didn't light. And again, he just kept trying over and over, and eventually he just snapped the match in half. Now, Erwin didn't panic, because he knew that, in extreme cold, some matches light better than others, and some don't even light at all. And he had seen this happen before, so he wasn't panicking. Instead, he pulled off his other mitten to make sure he had max dexterity here, and he took out the other match, and he held the thing he was striking it against, and he struck this second match, thinking this one will light. But it didn't, and he tried again and again, and he's starting to get a little panicked when finally he strikes the match, and this one does catch. But by this point, he's now had his naked hands exposed to the unbelievably cold temperatures for over a minute, and his hands were starting to seize up from the cold. They were shaking, in fact, so badly from the cold that even though he's got this light, his hands shook so much that by the time he transferred it to the tinder, the shaking caused it to extinguish. It was out. And at this point, Erwin did start to panic because his hands are in so much pain and they're so stiff from the cold that he was afraid that even if he put his mittens back on his hands, they wouldn't warm up fast enough for him to then remove his mitten and try this whole fire thing again. He really needed the fire in order to warm his hands, but obviously he needs his hands to make the fire. And so he's got a problem here. So Erwin, who was not one to give up easily, he just gritted his teeth and with his, failing hands, he just reached down and, fumbled and grabbed a third match, thinking, I gotta light this one, I gotta start this fire to warm my hands up, to warm my whole body up, I gotta do this. And so he's got this third match, he's barely able to hold it, and it took all his focus just not to drop it, but finally he managed to scrape it against the side of this matchbook, and to his relief, it did catch. And so immediately Erwin, very carefully, kind of sheltered this little flame, and he carried it over to the tinder, and he put the flame on the tinder, but nothing happened. Erwin waited for the bundle to catch fire, but it didn't. And then the flame, the match, just burned out. And for a long moment, Erwin just stared at this scene in front of him in confusion. He didn't understand because he knew that this time he had done it all right. He had lit the match, he put it on the tinder. He had done this so many times before, but it's just not working. But then he looked more closely at the tinder and his heart just sank because he knew that the situation he was in was truly catastrophic.
5 seconds remaining.
Ang new and improved Copico Blanca with New Zealand milk and premium coffee beans. Creamy as sarap na. Para ready for the day. Creamy as sarap, feel na ang good vibes. Creamy as sarap ng good vibes para ready for the day sa Copico Blanca.
揪、揉、压、挑，面塑最讲究的是一气呵成。可要想追上年轻人的喜好，让老手艺也能像盲盒一样受欢迎，我们的创作需要跑一场漫长的马拉松。想让这老手艺炒起来，我还得有一个新打法。
Your turn to pick.
我们可以看看这个作品，我们在24年的春晚上能看到他，王晨晨。这个孙悟空，他是传承人，他用自己的能力突破顶峰的佳作。我喜欢传统的故事，我更喜欢我们年轻人的潮流。对我来说，一个面人捏得好不好，不只是手上功夫，更多的是文化和故事的相融。一个作品从构思到完成，跟一个电影一样，要收集很多资料，组织在一起，才有了一个美妙的想法。常常我会用2、3个月的时间去打磨一个作品，作品做出来了，热点过了，所以我在想，如果有一个神笔马良做搭档，那该有多棒！
张老师，我们今天把相关的数据进行采集，通过华为的这个数据工程进行准确性的标注，让模型去学习训练，最后就能快速的生成许多不同风格的非遗面塑图片和视频，为你们提供灵感和参考。有没有一些特殊的技艺啊手法给我们介绍一下？
特殊的技艺的话，可以说它是最古朴的，都是用手一点一点的挤出来、捏出来。
我们把这个细节各方面，然后再拍一下。
像这些花纹理，这个造型、配色、衣服还有装饰，
这个要特写一下。
这样拍照片，真的能让 AI 搞懂传统画、搞懂面塑吗？
这数据量其实非常的大。要系统性的制作一个流程。采集非遗文化数据有几个特点，它的。
Several days later, there were some people living in Eagle, Alaska, who noticed that Erwin was not in Eagle. He had not arrived. And it didn't make any sense because he had told people when he would be there, and there was no reason he would be late unless something happened. And so these folks were just concerned enough that they went to authorities. And by November 19th, which is almost exactly a week after Erwin had struggled to light that fire, the U.S. Marshal's Office was out in force looking for Erwin. And so on November 19th, a deputy from the U.S. Marshal's Office who was out in the wilderness, a part of this search, he and his team came through these trees and he saw this clearing up ahead. and he noticed there was something in the middle of it. It was a sled that was surrounded by supplies, and it was set up on the bank of a frozen creek. And so immediately the deputy thought, like, this could be Irwin's sled. He could be nearby. And so he and his men, they rush down to this sled and they look around and they see there's like a rifle propped up against a tree, and there's this stack of unused firewood, and there's all this tinder and a bunch of matches that are strewn about on the ground that also don't appear to have been used. But beyond these supplies and these things they're seeing, there was nothing else. Like, Irwin was not here. However, the longer the deputy stood there just looking around, the more he realized what actually must have happened to Irwin. Because after sort of doing an initial scan, he realized there was something else in this clearing that he hadn't noticed at first. Wolf tracks. The deputy told his men that, very likely Irwin has been killed and carried off by wolves here. So follow these tracks and see if we can recover Irwin's body. And so the search party set out to go look. However, pretty quickly, they realized that, as they're following these tracks, that something just seemed off here. It seemed obvious, given that Irwin had not shown up yet. He's been found, his stuff's all here, he's not here, and there's these tracks here. It seemed obvious that he must have been killed by wolves, but they don't see any blood anywhere. Like, wouldn't he have been attacked by his stuff? And there'd be signs of an attack, and then he's been, dragged off? There should be a trail of blood or something. Any indication that a struggle happened, but no, it was just tracks, nothing else. And so eventually, as the deputy and his men are just following these tracks sort of farther and farther away from the sled and what they had found near the creek, they stopped and they're like, hold on a minute, something doesn't add up here. Let's go back and take another look at the actual site where the sled was, because again, there's no evidence of an actual wolf attack. There's just evidence of wolves. And so they turn around and they follow the wolf tracks back to where the sled is, and they start looking around more closely for, maybe there is some sign of a wolf attack that they missed, and they're looking around, and they eventually spot what appear to be Irwin's tracks. And they began following these, thinking that, maybe Irwin had become hypothermic and confused and wandered off into the woods, and either he died out there or had been attacked out there by wolves, but let's follow these. And this is bound to lead us to wherever Irwin went. But the footprints, they only led away from the sled a few feet before doubling back and stopping right at the edge of this frozen creek. And so for a minute, the deputy's looking down, trying to make sense of how these tracks just stopped right here. Did they miss something? Where did Irwin go? But then the deputy just literally looked at the creek, towards the center of this frozen creek, which to that point he hadn't really been focusing on. It was all the things on the land. Now he's looking at the creek itself. And suddenly, he knew what happened to Irwin.
At Food Panda, we're on a mission to make life delicious. Dahil minsan, sobrang init.
Meow, meow.
But with more than 30,000 restaurants just a tap away, a world of flavor awaits you. Kahit tunaw na tunaw ka na. Make life delicious.
Food Panda?
Old Spice.
So a week earlier, on the night that Irwin is trying to start this fire, he's desperate, he's becoming hypothermic, the wolves are nearby, he finally strikes that third match. He gets it to light, but the tinder won't light because the tinder was wet. We can assume the reason it was wet is because he kept his fire kit inside of his parka, and he was working so hard with that sled, he was sweating so much that he sweat on the tinder, and he soaked it. And so now, he does not have a way to start a fire. He cannot make fire. Without fire, he is going to freeze to death. There's no two ways about it. He is a veteran of the Alaskan wilderness. He knows he's doomed. And worse than that is he knows the wolves are getting closer and closer. And so no longer was it about what do I have to do to survive this thing? No, it became, how do I want to die? And as he listened to the wolves howl not too far away, he thought to himself, I certainly don't want to die by being eaten alive. And so he made a choice. A week later, the deputy from the U.S. Marshal's office was standing by the creek trying to figure out what happened to Irwin, and he looks out and he realizes there is a lump in the middle of the ice, right in the center of the creek, that he had not recognized at first as anything significant. But now he was looking more closely, and he realized it was Erwin. In an effort to avoid being eaten by wolves, Erwin had at some point walked into the middle of the creek, laid down on his back right in that break in the creek where that little bit of water was trickling out, that he had filled up his canteen right there. And he had just laid there, and the water kept spilling out onto him and gradually froze in layers over his whole body, essentially freezing himself into this cocoon in the creek. And so eventually he had frozen to death inside of the creek, but the ice had kept the wolves away. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. And remember, we have a whole playlist of Places You Can't Go episodes ready for you to binge right now. So go ahead and click here and give them a watch. All right, until next time, see ya.
Excuse me.
Swiftly now.
Excuse me. Okay, you know what? I don't really like identity politics, and I try to stay neutral in many issues, but I think it would be better for me if I actually listened, viewed and listened, because if I'm always gonna there are things that I don't want to talk about. You guys know that I don't like to influence people, no? But
what would you like to taste today? How about
once in a while, I think it's good to open my ears. Just listen to what people have to say. I don't have to agree with them, no? Or strongly disagree with them.
Personally, do not see the issue with not telling a guy that you're trans. Most guys lie about their height. Like, if you're saying you're 6 foot when you're actually 5 foot, don't be surprised if I don't say I'm trans.
I'm not telling straight guys that I'm trans. That rule of I should disclose that I'm trans on a first date, then you should tell me how much money you make, what trauma you have with your parents.
A lot of these trans women are looking for men, but look within. Not telling guys before you date or hook up with them that you're trans. That's nutty. Pun intended, as always.
Oh, for God's sakes, Brie, you're a woman. Manipulate them, that's what we do.
Any follower of mine knows very well that within the trans community, online and in real life, there is so many just low IQ debates. Should we do this? Should we do that? And it's always about things like basic respect. That's usually on the chopping block in the trans community. And so naturally, when it comes to dating, having sexual relations, there is a disclosure, not like the aliens, although some of y'all look it. It's become a trend on TikTok for specifically trans women, male to female trans people, to boast about this, brag about this. And honestly, a lot of them also telling stories about dating and having full intimate relationships with men and not disclosing. The caption on this, me getting with a guy without telling him I'm trans.
Are you nervous doing that?
You know what? I was nervous for my second performance. For my first performance, I was like, party with Cardi, yeah.
Baby, he knew. He knew sunshine. Although I guess maybe under certain lighting conditions. You know what I mean? Maybe certain hours of the night, maybe certain borderline deadly levels of alcohol. This is why a lot of y'all get beat up. Notice I didn't say deserve to get beat up, but a lot of y'all get beat up because I don't feel like anyone deserves violence. And so, you know, as God is my witness, as YouTube Terms of Service as my witness, I'm not endorsing or supporting violence at all. But, you know, there are certain things you can do to avoid violence as well. And as much as y'all talk about violence against trans women, it's so toxic to be out here promoting like it's funny. You know, when you go into the stories that make up these violence statistics against trans women, 90% of the time it's a scorned partner, an ex-lover. Situations like this do lead to violence. And sometimes, you know, extreme and a loss of life. And so to be promoting it like it's cute, funny, or anything in between, I don't know. I just don't think you tricked anybody. But let's see the rest of these.
I'm not telling straight guys that I'm trans. The amount of comments I get around, well, if you don't tell him, then you're gonna get what's coming for you, or like you're lying to him, or that's not the right way to start a relationship. It's like, hey, start the conversation with all of the baggage that you have in life. If we're gonna go off of that rule of I should disclose that I'm trans on a first date, then you should tell me how much money you make, how big your dick is, and like what trauma you have with your parents.
Not comparable. Somebody's genital size, bank account, all these things, these are secondary characteristics. Third order, you know, characteristics. Your biological sex is like ground zero. You know what I mean? That's like step one. You should know what biological sex the person you're on a date with is. That's like beyond even like a consent conversation. Like, these things should just be intuitive. This person is posing it as like this thing and she's so secure. All it's doing to me is revealing a very deep insecurity, because first of all, why are you wasting your own time? I'm sorry, I would never, if I was dating, I would never go into it setting myself up for failure with someone not knowing super basic things about me. And you should be, for all the talk about how proud y'all are, it's all about trans pride. This to me feels like shame. This to me feels like you're hiding something very big. Perhaps something very long. You wonder why y'all are always on TikTok also, you know, bitching about how...
Is she a trans woman? You know, if she's a trans woman, then... Yeah, I really admire her honesty. No, I'm gonna say her. Yes, I don't. But I don't know. I don't know if they... I don't know if they appreciate me calling them a her. You know. Yes, I'm assuming.
Guys don't want to date you and all these things. Sounds like y'all are choosing every guy that doesn't want to date you. It's just classic.
But you know, I especially in person, you know, I avoid these topics. With everyone, you know, I'm not discriminating. I avoid these topics with everyone. With straight people, with, you know, trans people, with the LGBT community. Especially around, you know, real children. You know, I'm a freaking VTuber. So I'm a freaking fake child. So, you know, and especially about the topic of, especially about the topic of, you know, pride marches, you know, and kids coming out. You know what? Yeah, I'm sorry to say that I do not support encouraging kids to come out. Because for me it's true that they don't know what they want to be. You know, it's true that You know, for me, the memes are true. Uh, he thinks he's a dinosaur like that. So, you know, kids are very open to suggestion. If you keep on telling a kid that you're this, you're that, yes, they likely are gonna affirm that. And no, I wouldn't want any child to make any decision that they cannot undo. You know, just like transitioning. You know, you guys can get me cancelled, but that's really what I think. No, for me, adults can choose what they want to do with themselves, transition or whatever. But kids, nah, I don't think so. I disagree. Yeah, that's that.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
Hello, hi. I was just rambling here about how I think I'm gonna get cancelled because of this stream, you know. I was talking about how I don't think that kids should be encouraged to like come out. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I hope you are too.
Radiant structures are fortified. Your bottom tower is under attack.
I'm not ready. A stronger sacrifice. Willing. Yes.
Your middle tower is under attack.
37 degrees Celsius. That's pretty normal in the Philippines now.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Hey, no one believes in global warming.
Tower has fallen.
Oh yeah, we had lint. And you know, the ones in little sachets, little packs. let me look what kind. The one in small wrappers, not the round ones. What, we had those small ones with like the caramel inside. Frick. Oh, let me look if I can see it. Yeah, it was good. I had to put it in the fridge because all day it's hot in the Philippines all day. It's always in liquid form. Well, we also had gummy candy. I told the dentist 3 months ago that I would never buy gummy candy anymore, and yeah, that doesn't count because I didn't buy it. Freaking hell. Yeah. Apart from being hot, it's also humid. I don't think Switzerland is very humid. Do you have ticks in Switzerland? I think you do have ticks there, right? No, it's very humid here. Yep. Oh, we have leeches instead. Yeah, it makes my skin crawl just thinking about it. I think I've never been hooked onto by any leech or tick. So that's nice. It makes my skin crawl just thinking about it. Ticks or leeches. Damn. I don't know. I mean, apart from taking your blood, you can get infections from them. You can get other things. Or, their bites can get infected by something. I've never experienced leeches, no. There aren't any in the city. I think we have to go hiking to get them. Yeah, it really makes my skin crawl just thinking about them. I don't care if they're dangerous. I don't care if, they're lethal. I just find them creepy, I find it creepy to have something on my skin. I don't really find it disgusting. Just very creepy. Oh, very creepy. And if you're gonna think of how the bites can get infected, then yes. Yeah. I would rather touch insects or ticks. I think ticks can be arachnids, right? Are ticks. What are they? Are they insects or arachnids? Yep, they're arachnids. They're more closely related to spiders and scorpions. What are leeches related to? Are they like mollusks? But I don't think so. They're segmented worms. But I do love earthworms.
Your top tower is under
I love earthworms.
Radiant structures.
I don't mind touching earthworms.
Your top tower is under attack.
Earthworms are good. They make the soil fertile. That's why I love them. Oh, and for me, spiders are friends. Spiders are friends because they eat mosquitoes. Spiders, frogs, and lizards. I love them. Yeah, they're worms. But yeah, I love earthworms. Because they make the soil fertile. So I love them. Man, I'm kinda tired, right?
I'll take that.
I still gotta go to work tomorrow. But I'm very happy about today. I got to ride my bike. It was very nice. It's 1:32 a.m. My shift ended at midnight. I made it 6 days straight. 6 nights straight. Oh, next week I don't know. I gotta take care of my profile before I can continue having classes. Okay, hold on. I made it this time I made it Monday to Saturday this week. I really gotta... Yeah.
Your bottom tower is under attack.
I've been teaching mostly Japanese people how to speak English.
Radiant structures are fortified.
They're mostly Japanese. I had one Taiwanese though. What happened?
Your middle tower is under attack.
I don't think I'm gonna...
Your bottom tower is under attack.
I don't think I'm gonna stream... I don't think I'm gonna stream during the day tomorrow. Maybe I'll stream the same time. Because I don't wanna be tired when I go to work. I don't know what that means, bro. same time, just like this.
Your top tower is under attack.
Man, I really hope I become a premium teacher. Premium tutor. Man. Hold on. Yo, good morning. What was that gyakta? Oh wow, what's this? Oh, you know, I think I still have macaroni. Don't, no, none in English. Minced meat. Oh, so served over. So what kind of sauce? What kind of sauce in that? Gravy?
Sprite, spicy. Sprite, spicy. Sprite, spicy. Sprite, spicy. Yan ang refreshing.
George Hardy, cause of death, a mystery, and the detectives are the last ones you.
If you want to know how I make the Swiss classic, namely Cackt mit Hornli, minced meat sauce with horn pasta, then stay tuned.
You know, I really avoid gravy nowadays. You know, ever since I became health conscious. So, for the past 3 years, I've been avoiding gravy. I've been avoiding making my sauces and soups thick using cornstarch. Yeah, I really don't want that stuff. I don't want to give my kidneys a hard time with that stuff, you know? Or whatever sauce. Well, then I'll just make my usual macaroni, you know. Carbonara macaroni. I think, I think I'm gonna sleep for... I'm gonna try to sleep for... I don't know, 10 hours. I'm, I'm not gonna stream before my shift, When I'm really tired, I wanna go to sleep right now. But I gotta finish this match. Yeah. I wonder what requirements there are to work at a bank. But it must be dangerous. There's a lot of people probably wanna rob banks. So I think this match will take 20 more minutes. Frick. Oh yeah, and you know what? I actually rode my bike today after a long time. I haven't been going out, and today I did. I did a lot of cycling. Around the neighborhood and going to the other block. I'm just happy that my inner tube didn't give out. It actually has a leak. The part of the valve is ripped. It's torn. And I've kind of fixed it with silicone oil and Teflon tape. I'm really impressed that it held up. You know what I miss about my own job is that the salary was pretty high, and then Of course, I had benefits, and there was a free daily meal. I really miss it, but I don't miss having to prepare every day, having to travel every day.
Radiant structures are fortified.
Having to deal with people, but I'm the problem, not them. I'm the problem. I shouldn't think of myself as a victim, because thinking that way will make me wanna do bad things. I've it was really a bummer today. At like 1 o'clock, one like 1 in the afternoon, it was pretty chilly. It was actually rainy. Before that time, I think it was raining in the morning. Oh, and I think it was in the morning when I was hearing very strong winds. I was kinda worried about my solar panels. Oh, excuse me. I'm expecting to lose this. I think I'm gonna lose. I'm really sleepy. So yeah, I will, and I hope that no one and nothing wakes me up. I still have a shift tomorrow. Come on, I wanna lose already.
Your top tower is under attack. Your top tower is under attack. Your top tower is under attack.
at once. With all my will.
Meow, 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 meow. That was a disaster.
Your middle tower is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified. Your middle tower is under attack. The enemy's bottom tower has fallen. Your middle tower has fallen. Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Come on, finish it.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under your middle tower has fallen. Your ancient is under attack. Your ancient is under attack.
Man, I wanted them to win. Oh, I got one. Man, I want to lay down right now. You know what I like about having a loft bed since last year? Another thing I like is, apart from having space beneath it, I can be naked and then, even if I don't close the window, it would be alright. if I were still using a normal level Ben. Yeah, gotta close the window.
Your top tower has been denied. Your shrine has fallen to the down.
I have so much more to give.
Your ancient is under attack. Your ancient is under attack. Your ancient is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified. Your ancient is under attack. Your ancient is under attack. Your ancient is under attack.
Okay. They're finally gonna finish it. Oh, not yet. GG. Alright. Alright, I'm gonna go to sleep now. Bye bye guys. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate you. Bye bye. Night night for me. Hell yeah.